let's get you the latest development. This is once again the reassurance that is coming in from the Prime Minister's side. Even as trade tensions between India and the United States have now taken a dramatic turn with no sign of de-escalation in sight. Now, just one day before President Trump's 27th of August deadline comes into effect, the US has now issued an official notice regarding new tariffs on India. The notice confirms the information of additional 25% tariff on goods from India, further escalating the ongoing tariff war between the two countries. But the biggest point of all, it is the Prime Minister's reassurance that is coming at a time. Rishabh, good morning. The Prime Minister has come out to say no amount of pressure built on India will India be ready to buckle or bow, because when it comes to the nation's interest, the nation's farmers' interest, it will not be compromised.
Well, Amita, one thing is very clear. India is not going to take a step back on issues like dairy and agriculture, and it has come from the top. Prime Minister has very clearly, in public domain, has said that India will not compromise with the interest of Indian agriculture and labor-intensive markets, which include dairy and other such markets. And now that the notice has been issued, which means that the negotiations are over. There's no more extension that is being given to India, and it will come in at tomorrow evening India time. It will be kicked in, the tariffs. So one thing is very clear. India has decided not to bow down to the pressure coming in from Washington, and India will fight it out as long as possible.
Absolutely, because the trade tensions, as they continue to rise, even just a day before, tomorrow is the 27th of August, the deadline that ends. However, when it comes to the United States, which has issued an official notice regarding the new tariffs on India with an additional 25% tariff hike that has been imposed. Now, speaking of the Prime Minister, who has sent out a firm message to the US President Donald Trump in response to the ongoing tariff dispute. Speaking in Gujarat, the Prime Minister has reaffirmed that the interest of the farmers, the small-scale industries are topmost priority for the Indian government. Despite the growing pressure from the United States and international trade challenges, he stressed that while the government may face increasing pressure and there would be consequences, but those consequences will have no effect whatsoever when it comes to our farmers and the small entrepreneurs and cattle rearers. The Prime Minister has assured that no harm will come to these sectors under his leadership.
मैं गांधी की धरती पे से बोल रहा हूं। मेरे देश के लघु उद्यमी हो, किसान हो, पशुपालक हो, हर किसी के लिए मैं आपको बार बार वादा करता हूं, मोदी के लिए आपके हित सर्वोपरि है। मेरी सरकार लघु उद्यमियों का, किसानों का, पशुपालकों का कभी भी अहित नहीं होने देंगी। दबाव कितना ही क्यों न आए, हम झेलने की अपनी ताकत बढ़ाते जाएंगे।
This notice itself is the signal when it comes to the US plans to push ahead with the tariffs, as efforts for a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine for now appears to be stalling. Let's get in a word from Sabyasachi now. Sabyasachi, mainly when it comes to the Prime Minister, he said previously in his statements that even when it comes to his personal equation, that would be affected. When it comes to the nation itself, additional pressure is being put, but saying that under his leadership, because opening up the markets will rise competition and our farmers are not up for it, such kind of pressure that will build on Indian farmers, if India buckles under pressure, that will not be allowed.
Well, that's right. See, the messaging from Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been very much clear. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday said that again and again he is repeating the same thing, that no matter what happens, the interest of the farmers, the interest of the cattle bearers, the interest of the small-scale industries will be protected, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government will not let any harm come to them. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi Modi also admitted that in the coming days, the pressure is going to increase in his government, but the government is ready to bear it. In fact, this messaging has been continuously coming in from the Modi government, where despite the pressure coming in from the US and President Donald Trump, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the NDA government is very much clear that they would not let any harm come to the farmers or the cattle rearers and the small-scale industries. Meanwhile, the pressure from internal politics also is continuously coming towards Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where the opposition mainly have been demanding answers from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, yesterday, PM also very categorically said that today, in today's world, the politics are continuously being driven. The international politics are being continuously
but multiple
driven.
Kisan unions and farmers have come out and hailed the Prime Minister as far as standing for them and standing for the nation, because this statement is coming at a critical time when the United States has been pressing India to further open its agricultural markets while also imposing a 25% tariff on Indian goods. The US has described this tariff as a response to India's continued purchase of Russian oil, which India has called it as unfair and unjustified. But when we speak of multiple leaders, as far as how the pressure is now being built on India, let's put that out. Because as far as United States earlier used to see India as an ally, Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a friend, what exactly changed, and that so dramatically? Tensions between the United States and India continue to escalate as far as series of statements that have come in from senior leaders of the Trump administration as well, coming from the President of the United States himself. Let's put in a word and talk about exactly when it comes to these statements, why is India being targeted despite when it comes to China being an American adversary? Has America gone soft on China? Now, I don't care what India does with Russia. If you remember, he had mentioned that they can take their dead economies together. At that point in time, he didn't have a cordial relation with the President Putin of Russia. Thereafter, when it comes to other leaders of the Trump administration, this came in from the White House saying that sanctions on India, why the real reason was to put additional pressure on India with unspecified penalty was because India was one of the consumers and buyers of Russian oil, and indirectly to add pressure on Russia, such sanctions have been imposed. Other statements that are now coming in saying that India seems to be rather profiteering, they are reselling, and this he would call it as Indian arbitrage. This is coming as a statement from the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. But however, when it comes to why India is being singled out as a friend and an adversary, is the damage now being done when it comes to all of the work, the decades-long work that has been done to improve India-US relations. The US President Donald Trump seems to have struck a softer note when it comes to China being one of the largest buyer of Russian oil, saying that Washington and Beijing will have a great relationship. He's added that while America holds incredible cards that could easily destroy China, he rather has chosen not to use them.
We're going to have a great relationship with China. I mean, it's happening. You see it. It's happening. They have some cards. We have incredible cards, but I don't want to play those cards. That would, if I played those cards, that would destroy China. I'm not going to play those cards.
Well, as far as China factor is concerned, of course, when it comes to Donald Trump and his changing statements, because he mentions that they have a great relationship with China, but they have some cards, but we have incredible cards. He says, I don't want to play those cards, and if I do play those cards, then that would destroy China. He says, I've chosen not to play those cards. What is he exactly hinting at? Imposing nearly 200% tariffs if China, what is now being said, did not give U.S. magnets, which are essential to the automotive, electronics and the defense industries. However, Donald Trump claims that he has the upper hand here. But speaking of the ongoing conflict that has been taking place between Russia and Ukraine, let's put out another breaking update. The Ukrainian President Zelensky has expressed gratitude to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his warm wishes on Ukraine's Independence Day, as it was observed on the 24th of August. In a post that he shared on the social media platform X, Zelensky has acknowledged India's support for peace and dialogue, especially in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. If you remember, there were pictures that also came in from the Indian monuments that were displaying the Ukrainian flag as far as in the national capital, the Qutub Minar is concerned. But India's stand has been made clear. Prime Minister, who has previously spoken on the issue when there is any conflict in any part of the world, saying that it is not that India does not have a stand. India does have a stand, and India maintains the stand that this is not an era of war and of any conflict. Let's put out Zelensky's post where he seems to be thanking Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Thank you, Prime Minister Modi, for the warm greetings on Ukraine's Independence Day. We appreciate India's dedication to peace and dialogue. Now, as the entire world strives to end this horrible war with dignity and lasting peace, we count on India's contribution. Every decision that strengthens diplomacy leads to better security, not only in Europe, but also in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. Let's get in a word from Srinjoy, who's connected with us. Srinjoy, good morning. It seems that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is one of those leaders who has good relations with both Russia and Ukraine. Remember, even when it comes to President Zelensky, he's thanking Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as we just put out his post. Right after the Alaska summit, it was President Putin who dialed Prime Minister Modi and gave him an update.
India has very good relations with both Russia and Ukraine. About that, there is no doubt. And Prime Minister has a good personal relations with President Zelensky and President Putin. And the Ukrainians have not forgotten what Prime Minister had said publicly to President Putin, that the 21st century was not a time for war. Also, the Ukrainians remember the packages that were sent, the humanitarian aid that was sent to Ukraine, not once but twice. So quite naturally, it was a message from President Zelensky thanking Prime Minister Modi for wishing him on the Ukrainian National Day. It must be said that there is a distinct possibility of both President Putin and President Zelensky being in Delhi on official visits by the end of this year. These are things that are being worked on. It's not confirmed as yet, but it's entirely possible that both President Putin and President Zelensky could be here in Delhi later this year.
All right. Thank you very much, Srinjoy, for joining in.